Today, we're diving into the wild and unpredictable world of the Old West, where lawmen, outlaws, and cowboys roamed the vast frontier. In this video, we'll explore the lives of 5 of the most notorious and eccentric characters from this rugged era. Let's get started. Number 1. Billy the Kid. Henry McCarty was born in New York City, though the exact date of his birth is disputed. After his father's early death, Henry's mother moved the family to Indiana and later to New Mexico Territory. It was here, amid the rugged and lawless landscapes, that Henry's transformation into Billy the Kid began. His mother's death from tuberculosis when he was around 14 left him orphaned and vulnerable. He quickly fell into a life of petty crime, starting with minor thefts and gradually escalating to more serious offenses. Billy's involvement in the Lincoln County War is one of the key events that propelled him into infamy. The war was essentially a violent feud between 2 rival factions vying for economic dominance in Lincoln County, New Mexico. Billy, then known as William H. Bonney, aligned himself with the Tunstall-McSween faction against the Murphy-Dolan faction, who controlled the local government and law enforcement. The war began in 1878 when John Tunstall, a rancher and businessman, was murdered by men associated with Murphy and Dolan. Tunstall's death enraged his followers, including Billy, who sought revenge. As part of the Regulators, a group formed to avenge Tunstall's murder, Billy participated in several deadly encounters, including the Battle of Lincoln. His actions during this conflict, often described as both brave and reckless, further solidified his reputation as a fierce and cunning outlaw. One of the most remarkable aspects of Billy the Kid's legend is his repeated escapes from captivity. His first major escape occurred in April 1878, following his capture by Sheriff William Brady, a supporter of the Murphy-Dolan faction. Billy and other Regulators were jailed, but they managed to escape and subsequently ambushed and killed Sheriff Brady and his deputy in broad daylight, a daring act that only added to his notoriety. Perhaps the most famous escape came in 1881, after Billy was convicted of murder and sentenced to hang for the killing of Sheriff Brady. Imprisoned in the Lincoln County Courthouse, Billy managed to overpower and kill 2 guards, securing a horse and riding away to temporary freedom. This dramatic jailbreak further entrenched his image as an elusive and fearless outlaw. Billy's life came to a violent end on July 14, 1881. Sheriff Pat Garrett, who had been a friend of Billy's before becoming a lawman, tracked him down to Fort Sumner, New Mexico. Acting on a tip-off, Garrett found Billy in the darkened bedroom of Pete Maxwell's house. Accounts of the encounter vary, but it is widely believed that Billy, speaking Spanish and not recognizing Garrett, was shot dead on the spot. The death of Billy the Kid at approximately 21 years old marked the end of a short but dramatic life. His demise at the hands of Pat Garrett, another figure who became legendary in his own right, has been immortalized in countless books, songs, and films. The event solidified Billy the Kid's status as a symbol of the rebellious and lawless spirit of the Old West. While Billy the Kid's legend paints him as a cold-blooded killer responsible for more than 20 deaths, historical evidence suggests a lower number. Some historians believe that he was directly responsible for around 8 killings, a significant number but far from the exaggerated figures often cited. Additionally, his character has been depicted in various ways, ranging from a ruthless outlaw to a folk hero fighting against corruption. The story of Billy the Kid is a blend of myth and reality, reflecting the complexities of life in the American Old West. His youthful appearance, quick wit, and deadly skill with a gun made him a captivating figure, while his repeated escapes from justice and dramatic demise only fueled the fascination surrounding his life. Whether viewed as a villain or a victim of his circumstances, Billy the Kid remains an iconic figure whose story continues to captivate the imagination of those interested in the history of the Wild West. Number 2. Calamity Jane. Martha Jane Canary's early life was fraught with hardship. Her family moved frequently, traveling by wagon train to Montana and then Utah, before eventually settling in Virginia City, Nevada. By the time she was a teenager, both of her parents had died, leaving her to care for her younger siblings. This difficult upbringing forced her to become self-reliant and resourceful at a young age. Martha Jane's transformation into Calamity. Jane began when she left home and started working various jobs traditionally held by men, including as a cook, nurse, and ox team driver. Her willingness to take on physically demanding work and her penchant for dressing in men's clothing allowed her to navigate the rugged frontier life more freely. Calamity Jane claimed to have served as an Army scout during the Indian Wars, a period marked by violent clashes between Native American tribes and the U.S. government. She purportedly joined General George Custer's forces in 1870, disguising herself as a man to be able to serve. While the veracity of her military service is debated, it is known that she was associated with several military expeditions and was respected for her skills as a rider and shooter. Her adventures took her across the vast expanse of the American West, where she developed a reputation for her fearlessness and resourcefulness. One of her most famous exploits was rescuing a wounded stagecoach driver by taking over the reins and delivering the passengers to their destination safely. This act of bravery cemented her reputation as a formidable frontierswoman. Calamity Jane's association with the legendary gunslinger, Wild Bill Hickok, further enhanced her fame. The two met in Deadwood, South Dakota, a bustling mining town notorious for its lawlessness. While the nature of their relationship remains a topic of speculation, ranging from close friends to lovers, their connection is a significant part of Calamity Jane's lore. She claimed to have been romantically involved with Hickok, and even asserted that they were married, although no historical evidence supports this. Despite the ambiguity surrounding their relationship, Calamity Jane's dedication to Hickok was evident. When Hickok was murdered in Deadwood in 1876, Jane was deeply affected. She later claimed to have avenged his death by tracking down his killer, although this story is likely apocryphal. Calamity. Jane's persona was as much a creation of her own making as it was the result of the stories told about her. She was a skilled storyteller and often embellished her exploits, which helped build her legend. Her habit of dressing in men's clothing, her hard-drinking lifestyle, and her rough and tumble demeanor were all parts of her self-crafted identity. These characteristics set her apart from the traditional image of women in the Old West and allowed her to navigate a male-dominated world on her own terms. Her contributions to the West's folklore are significant. She became a symbol of the frontier spirit, tough, independent, and unyielding. Her life story has been depicted in numerous books, movies, and television shows, ensuring her legacy endures. In her later years, Calamity Jane's life was marked by continued hardship. She worked various jobs, including as a laundress and cook, and even joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, where she performed as a sharpshooter and storyteller. Her health began to decline, exacerbated by her heavy drinking, and she spent her final years in poverty. Calamity Jane died on August 1, 1903, in Terry, South Dakota, and was buried next to Wild Bill Hickok in Deadwood's Mount Moriah Cemetery, a testament to the enduring connection between the two legendary figures. Number 3. Bass Reeves. Reeves spent his early years in servitude on the plantation of William Steele Reeves. During the Civil War, Bass escaped from slavery, fleeing into Indian Territory, modern-day Oklahoma, where he lived among the Cherokee, Seminole, and Creek tribes. It was during this period that he learned to speak several Native American languages and honed his skills in tracking, marksmanship, and survival. In 1875, President Ulysses Grant appointed Judge Isaac Parker, known as the Hanging Judge, to the Western District of Arkansas. Parker was tasked with bringing law and order to the region, notorious for its outlaws and lawlessness. Needing skilled and trustworthy men to enforce the law, Parker appointed Bass Reeves as a deputy U.S. Marshal. Reeves's appointment was groundbreaking. As one of the first black deputy marshals, he faced significant racial prejudice. However, his exemplary skills and unwavering commitment to justice quickly earned him respect. Reeves was known for his sharp detective abilities, exceptional marksmanship, and strategic use of disguises. He often posed as a cowboy, farmer, or even an outlaw to gather information and capture fugitives. Reeves' career as a lawman was marked by numerous daring and successful arrests. One of his most famous exploits involved the capture of the notorious outlaw Bob Dozier, who had eluded law enforcement for years. Reeves tracked Dozier through harsh winter conditions, ultimately engaging in a deadly gunfight that ended Dozier's reign of terror. Reeves' ability to apprehend outlaws was unmatched. He arrested over 3,000 individuals, including some of the most dangerous criminals of the time. His reputation for bringing fugitives to justice without prejudice or favoritism was well known, and he became a symbol of fairness and integrity in law enforcement. One particularly challenging case was when Reeves was tasked with arresting his own son, Benjamin Reeves, who had been charged with murder. Despite the personal anguish, Reeves upheld the law, demonstrating his commitment to justice above all else. He successfully apprehended his son, who was later tried and convicted. Despite his extraordinary career, Bass Reeves did not receive the recognition he deserved during his lifetime. The racial prejudices of the time overshadowed his contributions, and his story was largely forgotten in mainstream history. However, recent efforts by historians and filmmakers have begun to shed light on Reeves' legacy, ensuring that his remarkable achievements are not lost to history. Reeves retired in 1907 after 32 years of service. He spent his remaining years in Muskogee, Oklahoma, where he passed away on January 12, 1910. His legacy as a lawman who upheld justice with unwavering integrity and courage remains an inspiration. Number 4. Doc Holliday. John Henry Holliday was born into a well-respected family in Georgia. He pursued an education in dentistry, graduating from the Pennsylvania College of Dental Surgery in 1872. Holliday initially practiced dentistry in Atlanta, but his career was cut short when he was diagnosed with tuberculosis, a disease that had claimed his mother's life. Seeking a drier climate that was believed to be beneficial for his condition, Holliday moved to the American Southwest. Upon moving west, Holliday found it difficult to sustain a dental practice due to his declining health and persistent cough, which unnerved his patients. Consequently, he turned to gambling, a profession that was more lucrative and less physically demanding. Holliday quickly gained a reputation as a skilled gambler, but his sharp wit and volatile temper often led to conflicts, necessitating proficiency with a gun. Holliday's skills as a gunfighter became well known, and he earned a fearsome reputation. His quick draw and accuracy were legendary, and he was involved in numerous altercations, many of which ended in fatalities. Despite his frail health, Holliday's fearless demeanor made him a figure to be reckoned with. One of the most defining aspects of Holliday's life was his close friendship with Wyatt Earp. The two met in Texas in the late 1870s and formed a strong bond based on mutual respect and loyalty. Holliday's association with Earp would prove to be pivotal in his life, particularly during their time in Tombstone, Arizona. In Tombstone, Holliday and the Earp brothers, Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan, found themselves in conflict with the Clanton and McClory families, who were part of a faction known as the Cowboys. Tensions between the two groups escalated, leading to the infamous gunfight at the OK Corral on October 26, 1881. The gunfight at the OK Corral is one of the most famous events in Western history, and Doc Holliday played a crucial role in it. The confrontation lasted only about 30 seconds but was intensely violent. Holliday, armed with a shotgun, stood alongside the Earp brothers as they faced off against the Cowboys. By the end of the gunfight, 3 members of the Cowboy faction, Tom and Frank McClory and Billy Clanton, were dead, while Virgil and Morgan Earp were wounded. Holliday's participation in the gunfight, despite his severe illness, demonstrated his unwavering loyalty to the Earp brothers and his fearless nature. The event solidified his reputation as a formidable gunfighter and a loyal friend. Following the gunfight, Holliday continued to face legal battles and health challenges. He remained loyal to Wyatt Earp, assisting him in his vendetta against those responsible for attacking his brothers. Despite his declining health, Holliday continued to gamble and occasionally practiced dentistry. Doc Holliday's life came to an end on November 8, 1887, in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. He succumbed to tuberculosis at the age of 36. His last words, reportedly, were, "This is funny," reflecting his characteristic wit, even in his final moments. Number 5. Geronimo. Geronimo was born into the Bedonkohe band of the Chiricahua Apache tribe. His early life was steeped in the traditions and culture of the Apache people. However, his life took a dramatic turn in 1858 when a Mexican raid resulted in the massacre of his family, including his mother, wife, and children. This traumatic event ignited a lifelong vendetta against Mexican forces and later, American forces, who encroached upon Apache lands. Following the death of his family, Geronimo emerged as a fierce warrior and leader. His ability to inspire and lead his people through numerous raids against Mexican and American settlers and military outposts demonstrated his tactical brilliance and deep commitment to protecting Apache territory and way of life. Geronimo's knowledge of the rugged terrain of the Southwest gave him a strategic advantage in evading capture and launching surprise attacks. As American settlers moved westward, conflicts between Native American tribes and the U.S. government escalated. The Apache, under leaders like Geronimo, resisted the forced relocations and loss of their traditional lands. Geronimo and his band engaged in a series of fierce battles and raids against U.S. military forces and settlers from the 1870s through the 1880s. Despite being heavily outnumbered and outgunned, Geronimo's group used guerrilla tactics to great effect, striking quickly and then vanishing into the harsh mountainous terrain. His ability to escape capture and continue his resistance made him a formidable opponent and a legend among both his people and his enemies. Geronimo's defiance was characterized by multiple captures and dramatic escapes. He surrendered several times under promises of peace, only to find that the U.S. government failed to uphold its agreements, leading him to escape and resume his resistance. These cycles of surrender and escape further emboldened his legend and demonstrated his unyielding spirit. In 1886, facing relentless pursuit by thousands of U.S. troops and their Apache scouts, Geronimo and his small band of followers were finally forced to surrender. This marked the end of the Apache resistance, and Geronimo was sent to Florida as a prisoner of war, later being transferred to Alabama and then Oklahoma. Geronimo spent the last years of his life as a prisoner of war. Despite his confinement, he remained a figure of significant interest and was even invited to participate in public events such as Theodore Roosevelt's inaugural parade in 1905. He also dictated his autobiography, which provided a personal account of his life and struggles. Geronimo died on February 17, 1909 in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. His legacy, however, extends far beyond his death. He is remembered as a symbol of Native American resistance and resilience against overwhelming odds. His life story highlights the broader struggles of Native Americans during the westward expansion, a period marked by displacement, broken treaties, and cultural upheaval.